I know exactly where all my money went for the past 1 year. I'm kidding. For the past 4 years. And it costs me no money whatsoever. Only 5 minutes of every day. And that's it. Can you say the same? Check out how. So in the middle of the COVID pandemic, I don't have a job. I decided to do farming and I don't have money. So I need to figure something out to make things work. And well, 5 years later, here is where I am. But one thing I had to put clearly was what I was going to do with my money. Things are a little bit different right now because Trump is the president of the US. I have done project work as part of my employment. That has since ended because of all the reasons that are in the news right now. Yeah. Make America great again. So I'm just looking back at what I've done, and I think one of the things that I'm proud of is tracking my money. We live in a modern era. There are some opportunities we have right now that were not there in our parents' age. For tracking money, this is what it looks like for me. I use a free tool to track and store all my earnings and expenses with no problem whatsoever. I don't pay anything for it. At the end of the month, I can look at how much I've earned and how much I've spent and make decisions based on that. So this tool that I use to guide what we do, I termed it the Yodita. So the Yodita has 3 aspects. 1, where is the money coming from? Income. Secondly, where do I want the money to go? Budget. But where is the money actually going? Expenses. So those are 3 entries that we actually make. And I'll start with the most exciting. Spend the money. Let's start with the expenses. So what you see opened on the right is the Google Sheet, an equivalent of an Excel sheet, where I have all the adding up being done by Google Drive for me, so that I have a finished product. I have opened it on the laptop. So then what you see on the left is my phone screen, where I'm actually doing the entries. Usually I do the entries using the phone. So I use Google Drive to do my entries, and if you have a Gmail, it means you actually have everything that you need to do this. So going into my phone and opening Google Drive and going specifically to the account where I kept the information, there are 3 forms, those purple ones, one for expenses and one for income. Those are the ones which I use to do the entries. And then a Google Sheet, that green one, which combines the 2 entries and essentially does the adding up and summarizing of everything for me so that I have a finished product. Every day, let's say 2nd of March, I spent some money on airtime and it cost me 1,000 shillings, but I need to specify a category so that it makes it easier for me in analyzing the expenses. Realize when I submit, immediately it reflects on the expenses worksheet. So you notice down here that there are a couple of dashboards. There is one for expenses, one for income. Those are the 2 entries, and then there are dashboards for each. One for expenses, one for income, and these dashboards analyze whatever comes through these entries. And then finally there is one general dashboard which analyzes all the information coming from here. So this is the final perfect summary. If you continue to the next one and made an additional entry on 12th of March, so we traveled using a taxi and it cost us 3,000 shillings. This is transport for sure. So again, once we submit, you realize we have an added entry on transport, but we made an error on this, so it wasn't actually 3,000. We could edit it and change it slightly to be more accurate, so it was actually 3,500. So I submit and you realize here the 3,000 is immediately changes 3,500 with a pointer to show that it has been edited. So now going to the expenses dashboard, the dashboard you realize brings all the categories up here, specifies the month, but each of the categories that we used to chunk up the data before we submitted are placed up here. So it sums them up and totals them up for me. This dashboard updates the information in real time. Once I make an entry, it adds up and gives a total and gives a quick update immediately. So I'm going to do a few more entries. So let's say I've gone for a date with baby girl. So that would be under romance over here. So this should be able to increase as well as the total. So maybe let's enter another one just to have a clearer picture. So 12th of March. This time we are doing a wedding contribution. So a wedding contribution will be friends and family. So that is under social. And you can see on the phone I'm completing the entry. So look here at social. Once we submit, again social is just going to change and increase by the same amount. But before we leave, let's do just one other entry. Perhaps on 2nd of March I misplaced some money. The actual amount that I misplaced was actually 10,000. Now this doesn't fit in any category, so it will be under others. So you realize again this updated as well as the total.
Wow, that was a long one. Where is the money coming from? Let's talk about the income form.
We tap it, and then once we've gotten its preview, we can do similar entries. Really the process is actually the same. We just need to specify the date, and this time we'll specify the income source. So let's say it's 31st of Jan. We got some money, and that money was actually coming from job 1, and specifically it was a date that was paid from someone that I had given money. The total amount of that specific date was 100,000. So the income source was placed among others. It's 12th of Feb, and we are now getting some money from job 2. It's not necessarily salary, but it's per diem, and because we went out to the field, and the total amount that I got for that per diem is 50,000. When I submit, because it's job 2 in Feb, expect this to change as well as the total. So once I make the submission, okay, so this changes and this changes as well. Basically those are the entries. Ideally there should be 7 categories, with the last one being others. So the categories that I use are these. So you realize that my biggest expenses are the first ones, and then the smaller expenses are put last. Now at this point I wasn't seeing anyone, so I wasn't spending any money romance wise actually throughout that entire year. But you know, as a guy, from time to time you send some little money out, and it actually sums up in a way that you don't know. For example, in November I was surprised that I spent that amount of money. So these numbers can be a little bit scary for some people. So the alternative, you get all these and make them into a chart. Just get that information, and it's really easy to do. And there we go. So we have a chart. I think we could choose different colors. Let's get a different color for this one and see what is available. We choose a different color, maybe purple. Okay.
Yes, and finally we can do the most boring. Yeah, time for the budget. I'm as bored as you, but bear with me.
I wanted to spend exactly 1 million, nothing more than that. Preferably less, but not more. I hit the target in the first 6 months, but it came with quite some struggling. There are some things that were really not feasible. For example, for romance, I'd placed it at 40,000 per month because I really wasn't seeing anyone, and I wasn't planning to see anyone at the time. But there's this little money that you send to a girl primarily for a reason of her being a girl. I knew that eventually I would end up in a relationship, and that was too little, so I needed to double it and increase it to a little bit higher. I know that is money that's just enough to plait hair, but guys, leave me alone. That was my capacity. And then my expenses on data were also not very realistic, because I realized that the trend I was having on airtime and data was really high compared to what I'd actually planned. But because I was essentially learning on YouTube, and most of the things I was doing needed data, that is something that I could not compromise. So I needed to increase that expense slightly.
It will be difficult for me to convince you to do this, but let me give you one challenge, and please, I beg, I'm on my knees right now. Just 1 week, every day, write down every single thing you spend on, whether cheap or expensive. Just write it down. At the end of the week, add it up. And the question is, were you surprised by anything that you have seen? Most of you may not do the exercise, I understand, but for the few that will, please put in the comment section, that single experience changed my mind on what I do. I am a medical doctor. I have a full-time job. So this is really impossible for me to do. The only difference is I am doing it. I made a decision to look at where my money is going so that I focus it to go where I want it to go. And today I have a farm. It's not that big, but we'll get there. This is how.